this point, is there? Is it?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Of course you don't.
Mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm,
No.
mm-mm.
I'm just gonna keep. I'm just gonna keep making fun of you. That's how I'm good. That's how this gonna work.
Now you may talk.
Okay.
Oh, right. While you're leading us in, I'm gonna open up the chat.
Alrighty. So now that this, it's gonna. You're not gonna do the thing where you. Okay, there goes.
What thing? You know, eventually we'll be good enough. We'll actually play the intro music through the soundboard. But
yeah.
I suppose there's nothing that really stops me from doing that now, right?
I mean, if you know how.
Oh, no. No, the control room just shows our names, not necessarily like another input that I could do.
Okay. So yeah, it would have to be on your end through OBS or something, or on my end through OBS. Or
theoretically,
something.
I could do it through. I mean, I could do it through my mix board and just have something play directly in and be crazy ass loud without, unless I tested the everything.
So anyway, we're not going to do that right now. So, hello and welcome everyone to the next episode of the Foally of Man. My name is Chris. With me here today,
Robert.
And today we're going to be looking at a book called Pink Eyes, which is a melding of Fallout and Equestria, which is actually a associated side fiction to the book Fallout Equestria, which we have already done. And if you have not seen, read all the way through that first, because we will be delving into spoilers here, and read the book because it's fantastic.
It's free.
Yeah,
totally free. It can't be monetized. And on that note, I should also say, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome. Chris is a Brony and I'm not. Although one of the things we've acknowledged that at this point is that I probably know more than a fair number of Bronies because of how esoteric all this crap is.
Do you know that the show has turned to shit? Yes, then you know more than half the Bronies.
Oh, burn. Those hot pants that you've got there, Chris.
Yep.
Hot.
Steaming.
Oh my god. But yeah. So this is it's a good story. It's a good story. Finally, well, not finally, we're moving right along. Puppy Smiles gets rewarded for a job well done. It doesn't matter how she did it, she got rid of the ghouls. The ghouls are gone.
Yep.
And they took the dangerous irradiated salt cube with them.
The dangerous, about to explode irradiated salt cube.
Well, and the normal ponies had no idea that was the case. Oh, I had a thought, and I just feel like I should share this. This is a fan fiction, but at times it feels a lot more like a fur fiction. So take that with a giant grain of salt.
A giant cube of salt.
Giant cube of salt, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so explain the fur fiction part.
Well, for anyone who's read Fallout Equestria, there's a little bumping and grinding. A little, you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Okay.
You don't like that? You don't like that term?
I don't like the idea of you talking about sexualization of the characters when we're talking about a 5 or 7 year old child.
Okay, so how much sex was there in Fallout Equestria? I mean, I'm really glad that there's none in this, but in the overarching,
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you on the point of the original. It's just you bring it up for this, and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, God, I hope that
Puppy the door. It's probably the FBI.
I hope that Puppy Smiles is a non-sexual character. This seems to be a much safer story than like Project Horizons.
That would be the best part about if somebody decided to swap me at where I am. Not that anybody knows my address, but if somebody decided to swap me, I guarantee you they'd go to the wrong address. Because I've had the cops show up at my door for the wrong address like 3 or 4 times now.
Yeah. Well, you look like the type.
Yeah, I know.
You look like the type that might be dealing or has 6 terabytes of stolen celebrity porn.
Which we all know is illegal.
Yes. Just like secret emails. Very illegal. We're not allowed to read them.
Oh boy. Okay, so let's actually talk about the story. So Puppy Smiles is decided that the only thing she really wants is a ride on the cow,
On the Brahmin. Yeah, on the two-headed cow.
And that's the only thing she wants, and she just keeps wanting that. And they're like, okay, but now you have to go talk to the guy in charge. And she's like, one more ride. And they're like, fine.
One more ride. One more ride.
And of course, all the other members of this organization, the White Coats, are all like, what the fuck is she? She's some terrifying amalgamation of terror that's destroying everything.
What they think is that it's all an act, that she's some kind of psychopath, and this whole childish thing is just some bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
They can't wrap their head around actual childlike innocence. That's what the ghouls had a hard time understanding.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, what's her angle? Yeah.
So
well, and in their minds, she's 200 years old, so that she should have these 200-year-old experiences. They can't quantify or understand that she's literally been in stasis for 200 years.
Mm-hmm. So they kind of go over and reiterate points from the last chapter, and the White Cold's leader, Mr. White, just kind of reiterates things that have already occurred. But they had mentioned that at some point that her mother was to the south. I think it was in the last chapter, and that she did have a new place to go to. But before she leaves,
well, it was their. Well, she knew about their hideaway from the ghoul that knew her.
Yeah, handed her the information on the bunker to the south, and she was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go down there." And he's like, "To the swamp." Oh, she's so dead.
Let me take you down to the bunker. Strawberry swamp.
So they decide to give her one gift, even though she only requested for the Brahmin ride, and it's a scooter. It's a little motor scooter.
A little scootaloo, scoot along.
A scoot along. Because it's scootastic. At which point, somewhere along the way,
the thing sounds pretty ballin', by the way.
Yeah,
it sounds like it really zips.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, compared to something that's just had to walk on her little hoosies the entire time, yeah. I mean, even 5 to 10 miles an hour would probably be like fucking booking it. So,
and then she's scooting along, and she happens along some conversation hearts, specifically a lot of bee mines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a good old fashioned minefield.
Yeah, well, she meets Watcher.
That's true.
On the way.
That's true.
And kind of discusses what happened with him as well. I'm wondering whether or not there was a break in between this chapter and the last chapter, and
in the writing of the story.
And I keep wanting to say Fuzzy, and it's not Fuzzy, but Mime Zenga was just doing some kind of like psychological catch up with their own mind, trying to catch up with the events.
Last episode, it's like DBZ. Last time,
a serial, a serial, which would be more classic and period piece for it.
Serial.
Boop. And so she also happens upon a battle between griffins before she goes to the minefield, where she notices the different chickens killing each other. And she's confused as to why. She's like, "What? Hey, chickens, come down. Stop playing. Talk to me."
It's the first time we've seen a griffin in the story.
Yep.
In this specific story.
Yeah, in this story. You were right. And there was a line from it that I did want to say, which was a conversation where she's trying to get their attention to stop them from fighting.
Yeah.
And she says, "Mr. Voice, give me that shiny thing that makes a lot of noise."
Oh, yeah.
Warning, object Puppy Smiles cannot be retrieved from inventory. Oh, great.
But the thing that makes all the noise was they gave her a gun, right? The White Colt gave her a gun. Yeah.
Yeah. A 9mm submachine gun.
Yeah.
Which was in Fallout 3, not in Fallout 4, but in Fallout 76. Okay.
And we something else interesting about this is that it's Gryphon on Gryphon. The Griffins are fighting each other.
Yeah, we don't really know why.
Right.
But I guarantee you it has something to do with the fact that they've self-segregated into mercenary bands. So
yeah, kind of like the Mandalorians in Star Wars. Different story, but Anyways, one of the Gryphons survives, sort of, but not for long, and basically says, "Here, take this and go this place and give it to my daughter."
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was supposed to meet her, give this to her. And Puppy Smiles, of course, still has no real concept of death. And so it's like, no, you're fine. What are you talking about? And then he's just dead.
Yeah. He's sleeping. Chicken sleep, you know?
Yeah.
A hard, long nap. There's also a mention in this, I kind of truncated my lines incorrectly. The way that they're handling the weapons, the Puppy Smiles handle the weapons, is the automatic inventory management uses a Time Crisis style reload system where she just ducks the gun down to reload it. Which also made me think that it was interesting that they had Time Crisis in pre-war Equestria. Who knew?
Yeah.
They did show themselves to be excessively more into warfare than you would expect, so it does make sense. Oh, there was an interesting point I realized a while back. So, not to interrupt too much. So I was playing Fallout 76, and you remember in Fallout Equestria, there was a line about how Pip was perturbed that the society itself was so okay with the active usage of firearms that they had ammo vending machines.
Right.
I don't remember ammo vending machines happening in Fallouts 1, 2, 3, or 4, or New Vegas. But there were... What?
I was going to say, I do remember them in Borderlands.
They were also in BioShock. But they are in Fallout 76, which means that KCAT also wrote about Fallout 76 before it existed.
Interesting.
Yeah. Interesting.
Maybe there's more to this kitty cat than we realize.
In before KCAT is actually Todd Howard.
Oh God! Okay, let me just go ahead and say KCAT is not Todd Howard, because KCAT plays a ton of Fallout mods, like a ton. And if you're Todd Howard, you don't have to play mods. You just got the dev team, you know.
I could totally imagine Todd Howard, like they're both in front of their developers, like all the developers in a room facing forward, and you got Todd Howard and Pete Hines, and Todd Howard's like, I want this, and Pete Hines just shoves his hand down and says, no, stop. I want to do... Stop. Pete Hines, the buzzkill. I don't know how that relationship works, but very clearly they make love, and when they come out, whatever's left in the room happens to be the next Fallout game.
Todd's a bottom, but he's a power bottom, so he's really in control.
It just works.
Yeah. It just, God damn it, Chris. What's the architecture behind that makes that thing function?
It just works. It just works. So now we get into the landmine thing where there's a passage of time and she just wakes up like, oh, okay, what happened?
I'm a little dizzy. And the scooter is like unscathed.
Yeah, the road blew up.
Yeah, kaboom. Yeah. And so she calls in to Miss Voice to kind of to give her a little help.
Yeah, because Mr. Voice has no ability to assist in this regard because he's still limited in his functionality. Miss Voice, however, has the full metrics of the mom's like computers for processing, and so finds her way through the minefield, which is good.
I'm trying to remember what Puppy Smiles like. Puppy Smiles doesn't understand what it is, but there's like a misunderstanding of the word. Anyway,
that happens several times, like with 9mm, 9 male miter, and so it's like what?
It's kind of a consistent trope.
Yeah. Also, it's kind of interesting. Oh no, it's 10mm. I'm thinking of. Never mind.
If I may interject for a moment, Last Place says, I'm reading through the chapter right now. I can't remember. Is everybody always thinking Puppy Smiles is going to die when they watch her leave? Yeah. I pretty much say that's like everyone she comes across.
you see this thing that has the appearance of a delicate flower in a world that is so terrifying that you are afraid to move. You're going to think it's getting crushed every single step of the way. The thing is although Puppy Smiles has the appearance of a flower, a rose, she's got thorns. Terrifyingly long thorns.
Pink cloud ghoulish thorns.
That resurrect her with necrotic magics.
So what you're saying is, in this case, Chris, a kiss from this rose would put you in the grave.
Yes. That would be appropriate. So,
you know, I just want to say, like, people come to the show for your looks, but they stay for my awful puns.
I was going to say wit.
No, it's clearly for your looks. You're like Squidward. So handsome.
With a giant nose. With a giant nose.
Yes.
So Puppy Smiles does make her way through the minefield and to the bunker, where along the way she sees a tank.
I just want to say, they lose me after the
bunker scene. Yeah. They lose me after the bunker scene. It's like the Brooklyn accent that really sells that joke.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, it's great.
How the hell does he do a believable German accent? So she steals some tank shells, various kinds for reasons, because she thinks they look pretty, because they're shiny and they get little ribbons on them.
Basically,
they're like they're presents.
Because she's a child. It's just.
They also do mention in this, I think right after the minefield, as the suit is regenerating, that she keeps picking up like little shiny things without thinking about it, without even really caring about the thing in question. She's like, ooh, thing, it's shiny. And as it's in the inventory, it's being used to feed the auto repair system on the suit.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
It's all the scrap, basically.
Yeah, but she keeps picking it up because it's shiny and
you know what it is? She's the ghoulish trash panda of the wasteland. You know, raccoons collect shiny crap like that.
Also known as Fallout 4 before Fallout 4.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
If something gets mentioned about her taking a desk fan, I'm flipping the table and just going up to Bethesda and saying, stop stealing people's ideas.
Actually, I kind of love the idea of devs at Bethesda being quietly very into Fallout Equestria.
And trying their damnedest not to sneak it in any more than they can.
Right.
So let's see. The Blimper Hood of Steel was the closest thing, and it's like, goddamn.
The what?
The Blimper Hood of Steel. That's what I call it.
Yeah. The Brotherhoof of Steel, as I like to call it.
Mm-hmm. Just the Blimper Hood, the giant floating platform of doom.
Yes, indeed.
So, on her way towards the bunker, she happens across another dead Gryphon, as well as a big kitty.
Yeah, manticore.
It's got a snake tail.
Yep. And a scorpion tail.
Snake tail.
Yeah, scorpion lion, tail. Scorpion tail, and wings.
Yes, bat wings.
Yeah.
Or membranous wings.
Yeah, terrifying creatures. Terrifying creatures. And the funny thing is, it's fiercely territorial, but it also seems to be very afraid of her. It knows enough of its innate animal sense that something's not
wrong. Yeah, and so it kind of acts like a cornered cat.
Yeah.
And just kind of like from a distance tries to swat at her to get her away.
Yeah.
Because it is, and yeah, I mean, for all that know, she's fucking terrifying. She is a weapon of mass destruction that wants to hug you.
Yeah.
Last place says, I don't know. Nuka World was a little too on the head to ignore. Yeah, but that was post-release, and so they could get away with doing a lot of more shit because people were kind of like, it was on its way out of the news. So it's like if they did horse armor and on the side it said, I love Celestia.
You know what I think really hurt Nuka World, because I still haven't completed Nuka World, is that they released it too late.
Yeah.
It should have come out sooner. Or maybe it should have been Nuka World before Far Harbor.
Yeah, Far Harbor was John Carpenter's The Fog, but not as close as it should have been.
Far Harbor tried to deliver more of that, The Fog, more of the H.P. Lovecraft. and it just fell short.
Yeah, it really did.
The fog was supposed to be super dangerous and limit your movement, and then it just isn't.
Yeah, and then you have the sailors who come up from whatever the bay is, and try to kill you with all the fishermen's hooks and the harpoons and stuff, just like the movie, but they're just kind of like raiders.
Yeah.
There's nothing supernatural about them. There's nothing unearthly about them, which there should have been. There should have been more of that supernatural, unearthly thing, and that would have led into it. It also had the worst line of dialogue in the entire game. The worst line of dialogue in all of Fallout 4, and I have no problem saying that, and I think it is absolute fact, in which Valentine's brother asks the question that I am so glad they didn't include in Fallout 4 and then was ruined, which was, what if I am synth?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God.
Well, and what's so screwed up,
cliche.
The one interesting thing was the character who was convinced she was a synth, but absolutely was not.
Yeah.
Which is just great. I just love that.
Yeah. It's
like, I'm a synth. I want to be I know I'm a synth. And then, like, if you murder her, she has no synth component. She's just a human.
Yep. Just to finish off this chapter real quick before we get into more stuff.
Yes, so she reaches the waypoint of where her mama is supposed to be, and she finds some pretty awful, harrowing audio logs from her mama. Basically, she's just in agony. She's slowly dying. She's run out of resources, and yet says she's still going to try and make it to some arbitrary point, another location.
Yeah. She mentioned a few things that were kind of interesting. I don't think they were introduced in Fallout Equestria. The glowing snow, I don't think was in Fallout Equestria. I can't remember. Because she described irradiated snow.
Nuclear winter is what she's described.
Yeah, but like the snow actually glowing due to how irradiated it is, and her having to just fucking drown herself in Radaway to stop herself from dying, which is interesting. In this universe, Radaway is drank, while in Fallout, it's injected intravenously.
Yeah.
Though it still comes out the same way, so there's that.
True.
So there's that, but she does find out where her mother headed.
Yeah,
which was to, I think, Sugar Mountain, down the Big 52.
Yeah,
so to a tunnel underneath it.
That's where she's heading next, and that's when we meet our Gryphon friend that we also assume is the daughter of the gentleman who passed away. Yes.
I wrote down here, before Henrietta gets mad at Puppy's flagrant racism, the Manticore breaks in.
Well, Puppy just speaks very bluntly. And so
you're a chicken. Oh my God.
Yeah. Bird brain.
I was immediately reminded of a post, and I think it was on Reddit, but it was from a very long time ago, where this guy grew up in rural Ireland without TV and thought that black people were a myth. And the very first time he saw a black person, he actually didn't even think about it, just yelled out, "Oh my God, you're real?"
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
Well, can you imagine a time like when you grow up in an ethnically homogenous society like that?
Yeah.
Your first experiences with somebody who looks different from you.
And they don't really explain any type of visual medium aside from photographs in the Fallout Equestria world, which is interesting because in both My Little Pony and this, they describe Time Crisis. So they have video games, but no video.
Yeah, interesting too. So the way I like to think of it is think about medieval artists' depictions of things like elephants and giraffes.
Oh yeah. The unicorn, which is a rhinoceros.
Right. They painted them and drew them based off of descriptions, written descriptions, and then they tried to replicate that on paper, which is why the creatures...
They were these great big beasts that were hundreds of stories tall. It's like, no, it's just like 30 feet up there. You're fine.
Well, it's kind of like, that's kind of where the Lord of the Rings depiction of the Oliphant came from. you know, the giant, oh, this thing was the size of 10 men, you know, well, 10 men high or 10 men across, or, you know, 10 men.
What was it? What was it the thing, David and Goliath, when they do the math on the actual measurements of Goliath? He's like 6'4".
Right, yeah, for the time he would have been a giant.
But again, in an ethnically homogenous society, most people are going to be a very similar height. And so when you get somebody come in who's like 6 inches taller than everybody else, fuck, he's gigantic.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing, so on that note,
you're like an Englishman walking into a French group of people.
The Philistines, who Goliath was a member of, were actually a great empire at the time, and so they were well educated, well nourished, better trained, and so those societies that have better food and better structure generally are going to be larger people in general.
And get dumped on by a farmer. What?
Yeah, basically. But again, you know, it doesn't matter what the religion is. There's underdog stories everywhere.
It's a very popular trope.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, even in Buddhism, for Siddhartha Gautama, he was a prince. He was born into royalty. He had to go into asceticism and not eat and not drink and basically punish himself to make his character, you know, his story more interesting.
Yeah, because he was hidden away from the world until an old man happened upon the road, and he was like, "Wait, what a second! People are old. People get diseased. What is this? I must understand." Because his father kept every single amount of disease, poverty, or anything that looked bad out of his eyes.
Yeah, he was protected
psychologically, also known as Arrested Development, not the TV show, but the actual disorder.
This was his first experience with a poor man. It wasn't.
They just told all the poor people to get out of his way.
Yeah. All right. But yeah, so that's, we leave on a cliffhanger in chapter 5.
Yep.
Bum. Next
which is
time on Pink Eyes.
Which is interesting because this is the first time in the story, I think, where you have a cliffhanger at all. Everything else, kind of every other chapter, I believe, to this point has been wrapped up.
There's resolution. That's right.
So we're starting to get into the part of the story where things start getting more complex, and I know for a fact you're going to start seeing things pop in and then come back in the story. So I know Mime Single was saying that they were concerned that it was also a little episodic, but again, that's just how it starts out. It does make it an easier and faster read. This is we're obviously not doing justice with our terrible release schedule, but the book is extraordinarily quick. And probably one of the smaller completed fictions that exists. Guys of Chaos may be a little longer, but not by much. Every time I mention it, I almost feel guilty afterwards because it's like I'm talking shit about it. And I don't mean to, because I keep saying, "Oh, it's two-dimensional, it's flat, all the characters are kind of compressed," but it's like, it's so good. It's this same with Pink Eyes in a way. It's not something new. It's not a dish that's great or fantastic. It's like a really good cheeseburger. It's like an amazing cheeseburger. It's still a cheeseburger. It's a surprising cheeseburger, but it's done so well. There's just the right amount of fat on the meat. The cheese is cheddar. It's like fresh, absolutely fresh slice of tomato, crisp lettuce. It's amazing. It's like the best burger you've ever had, but it's still just cheeseburger.
You're making me hungry.
I know. I'm making myself hungry, which why I have to stop.
And speaking of tender, juicy deliciousness, it has come to that time in the episode. Oh yes, boys and girls, and furries alike. We have reached the point in the show that we haven't done in many weeks. And I'm speaking of which, of course, the Pony Pun of the Week.
Pony Pun of the Week!
Pony Pun of the Week! Your Pony Pun of the Week. Chris, if you are ready for it.
I don't think I'll ever be ready.
Is unstable. Unstable. As in a ghoul that was left out of a stable and their brain rots and goes crazy would be mentally unstable.
This is the only face I have for you.
And that has been your Pony Pun. Thank you very much. I'm Robert.
Oh boy.
There's so many. I've built them up. We've got them. I'm ready for them. We have weeks of pony puns. On top of the general puns that I like to share.
Oh, yes, of course, all the way throughout.
Yes. So, for those of you who are here, Chris and I are going to be doing a little bit of a hangout afterwards, after the show, as we have in the past liked to do an after show. It gives us an opportunity to kind of hang out and talk about things we wouldn't normally talk about here directly on the show for our podcast listeners at home that are more focused on the book. That being said, are there any questions before we round this show out? Any
Chaotic Babies had mentioned, I just want Fallout to finally add vehicles. I mean, seriously, I doubt anyone would walk around the barren wasteland. Funny you should mention that. Fallout 2 did have a vehicle. It was a banditman or a highwayman. It was a
highwayman.
Highwayman. Yeah. It was a highwayman. I think it was a Chrysalis highwayman.
Yeah,
but could be wrong. It may not have been Chrysalis. But you powered it. You didn't drive it directly. It was only used during the overmap movement. And it would increase your travel times by an extraordinary deal. But you did have to fuel it using energy cells, which is different from how they depict fuel-up stations like the Red Rocket stops working in Fallout in Bethesda's, where they supplied coolant to nuclear reactors that were in the vehicles. I guess you get a vehicle in Fallout 4. Somewhat. I mean, you get the vertibird.
Yeah, but they've never adequately been able to figure out. I mean, think about it. The wasteland, it's not easy to navigate. The roads are in no condition to drive on, and the ground is certainly in no condition to move on. And so having a vehicle itself, unless you had some kind of a hover something.
No, you could totally do it. The old military vehicles that are scattered around are all probably perfect for that role.
Let me tell you, you and I both know why they didn't do it.
The engine's limited.
Well, it makes the world larger to not have vehicles.
Yeah, there's that. I mean, Skyrim did okay with the horses, but they had to slow the horses down to such an extraordinary degree that it was like, okay, coming. This is like I'm running. Yeah, there's that. There's the engine limitations of making it look believable. I mean, various mods that have added that. There was a mod for Fallout New Vegas that added a vertibird that was fully controllable, had full armaments and everything.
I'm not interested unless we can catch and tame a Deathclaw and ride them into battle.
Rideable Deathclaws. I am behind that. I am totally behind a mountable Deathclaw.
And just combine.
I know several people who would also be behind a mountable Deathclaw, but in a different way.
That's disgusting. Enough about fur fiction. Jesus. Oh, God almighty.
Yep, a motorcycle in the wasteland would be a really interesting thing, like a Harley-esque radioactive motorcycle.
You know what somebody needs to mod into Fallout 4 is the capture cap from Super Mario Odyssey. So you just be like, hey, look at this raider.
That would be extraordinarily thematically inappropriate.
Well, I mean, that's why it's a mod.
Yeah. I just use the Mesmatron, but like with a control stick, so you control them once you've mesmerized them.
Mm-hmm. Good times. Well, I don't know where to go from here, but thank you very much for tuning into another episode of The Foally of Man.
The Foally of Man.
The Foally of Man. So, for Chris, I'm Robert. Thank you very much, and we will see y'all next week when we go over Chapter 6 in Pink Eyes. It's all over but the crying.